What it do, cuckolds? It's your boy the hater up in this mug, you know what I'm saying? And I wanted to do a video about the overwhelming lack of credible heels in WWE today. Okay, so a couple of things here. I recognize that there are still some heels, right? Carmelo Hayes is now a heel, you know what I mean? Like the Bronco Nima and his partner, whatever they're called, they're heels. Pretty Deadly are heels. Austin Theory and the other guy, Grayson Waller, are heels, right? There's no doubt that there are heels, but there aren't any credible heels. In other words, there's no scenario in which Austin Theory will ever be the number one contender randomly the same way that Kevin Owens was as a face, right? All the heels have been pretty much taken out and turned into faces, or they've been heavily demoted, right? So Austin Theory is a great example. Austin Theory has been a heel for several years now, and, you know, at the last WrestleMania, he basically, not at last WrestleMania, but like 2 WrestleManias ago, he wrestled Cena and beat him clean, right? Now, that's completely meaningless. John Cena's back, and he like dominated them, you know, with R-Truth and and Miz, right? So there's no actual heels. The only heel that's running around now is Gunther. You know, Damian Priest was a heel, but as soon as he won the title, they turned him face. You know, Rhea Ripley was a heel. She's a face now. Everyone is a face. There is not one credible heel aside from like, and think about this. I have to scrape the bottom of the barrel here. For the women, it's Liv Morgan. For the men, it's Dominic. And I guess now maybe Finn Balor might get a push, you know, because he's going to be wrestling for, you know, for prestige and maybe for a number one contender's title shot. But on Raw, everyone that's supposed to be a heel, like the Wyatt family, or the Wyatt Six, right? The Wyatt Six was supposed to be heels, obviously, right? They were supposed to be these menacing heels because they came in and they attacked a bunch of innocent people, including Chad Gable. But it just so happened that Chad Gable was a heel, so they have to turn face now, you know, because that's kind of where they belong in that Chad Gable situation, in the pre-show part of the card, right? So nobody is a heel. Like, Chad Gable's not getting a push. So it's basically just Braun Breaker, who is not even a heel really. Like, he's just a wrestler, right? Like, he doesn't even have a personality. Like, he doesn't do any heelish things like cheat and things like that. He just beats people up and people boo him because like he wrestles the faces. But he's not really a heel. In other words, he doesn't do any heelish tactics, right? Even Gunther, right? Gunther's a heel, but he doesn't do anything overtly heelish. Now, you may be thinking, why is that important? Well, I have to have a reason to dislike these people, right? Like, heels are meant to be disliked. Faces are meant to be liked. Good wrestlers are capable of playing both sides, you know? Or I should say great wrestlers, because, like, for example, Randy Orton was never really a compelling face, right? He's been a face for years now, and it's been, like, the most boring time of his career. But nevertheless, we still need compelling heels. Now, in order to be a compelling heel, you need to do compelling heel shit, right? You need to go in there, like, basically something along the lines of what Finn Balor did. But a better example would be Dominic and Liv Morgan, right? They're the only 2 heels in this entire company at this point that actually feel good, right? The other alternative is, you know, the New Bloodline. But let's be real, like, none of those guys are compelling. Like, you can put even Solo Sikoa or even Jacob Fatu and put them in a title match, but it's like, we all know that's not going to happen, right? At least Dominic and Liv are compelling in their respective divisions. Dominic in the mid-card division and Liv in the women's division. And in many ways, Dominic in the women's division too, right? So think about that for a second. You know what I'm saying? The truth is that we have people that are pretty much ruining wrestling as we know it because everyone is a face. Now, the other heels that exist, either they're too low on the card, like Carmelo Hayes, or they're not good at what they do, like Carmelo Hayes, right? Carmelo Hayes is a heel, but he doesn't really do anything. He's been a heel for like a day, you know, because he was like a tweener when he got signed. And once again, it's been several months, and this guy hasn't done anything either, you know what I mean? So with all this being said, the question remains, perhaps, what should we do about this? Who can be a good heel? Well, Bronson Reed seems to be getting a push. He could be a nice monster heel. He is believable, right? Because he can kick ass, and he's got, like, you know, some pretty nifty moves, if you ask me. Can't believe I just said the word nifty. I should just hit myself in the head with a hammer or something. Anyways, that's where I stand with that. You know what I'm saying? But in addition to him, I can't think of anybody that can be elevated to being a main event heel, right? Like, the ones that were, like, on the cusp, you know what I mean? Like, Damian Priest, he could believably switch to SmackDown and be a threat for Cody Rhodes. Again, that would be a compelling match. Like, he's going to lose the match, but it would be compelling, right? He's a face too now. So it's like, wrestling is a heel-centered business, right? The production, the presentation of wrestling is centered around the heels, right? The story is a story as old as time itself, right? The way it works is as follows. You get someone like, let's say Bronson Reed for the sake of the example, right? You get Bronson Reed and you put a title on his bitch ass, right? Then, now that he's the champion, you say to yourself, okay, who's going to beat him short term and long term, right? You pick a guy that's going to be the next whatever championship he has, and you push that guy a little bit, having him flirt in matches with Bronson Reed, like, basically just like, some kind of like situation where like they're not really rivals, but they have this like rival flirtation, if you will, for lack of a better word, right? Like, for example, when Samoa Joe, like, one time randomly was just like staring at Jeff Jarrett because his match ended and Jeff Jarrett's match was starting, right? And that's enough to put the emphasis on it, right? Then you have the heel absolutely destroy the face for a long, long time, just like Roman Reigns did with all the people that he would destroy, right? Then, you have the people fight, and then one of them wins, ideally the heel. Then eventually, you build one hero to be able to beat the heel. This is essentially what happened with Cody Rhodes, except the problem is Roman Reigns' title reign began before Cody Rhodes even came back. So it was less impactful because it's almost like Cody Rhodes didn't have to try hard enough, right? All the other people failed, and you needed a lot of faces because your champion was a heel. Your main guy was a heel, so he needs challengers, right? And if you're going to keep the title on Roman Reigns for a long, long time, then it makes sense. It makes sense to have a bunch of faces as challengers, right? It makes sense to convert Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn into a face so they can be used as fodder to lose to Roman Reigns, right? That makes sense. That's perfectly fine. However, when the main champion is a face, you need to quickly establish new heels, right? They're gonna do this, I'm sure, by doing the predictable nonsense, by switching Kevin Owens, by switching Randy Orton. But how about instead you use this opportunity to just establish new heels, right? Either find new people that are going to be heels, bring some people up, push some lower level heels to be mid-card or higher level heels, and go from there. But they're not going to do any of this, right? Instead, what they're going to do is absolutely nothing, and they're going to hope that the dumbass wrestling fans don't realize that nothing makes sense, right? This, however, didn't work out too well for them because the fans did realize, for better or for worse, they realized, wait a second, Kevin Owens is out here. So why are there no heels? Why is he the challenger for Cody Rhodes, right? And the only way you can make that happen is if Cody Rhodes says, I want to wrestle the face. But this has never happened, right? Faces almost always wrestle heels, right? It's very rare to have two faces that eventually meet. And when they do, one of them has to turn heel, right? The perfect example is WrestleMania 17 when The Rock was a face and Stone Cold was a face, and Stone Cold had to turn heel in the middle of the match and establish himself as the enemy, as the bad guy, and The Rock is established as the good guy, right? That's just how it is. Now, they're going to do the same thing, but they're going to have Kevin Owens turn heel. There's nothing interesting about that. We've seen Kevin Owens be heel 100 times. And it's not like he's this good heel, he's a shit heel. He's horrible as a face, he's horrible as a heel because he doesn't do anything differently. He just wrestles, and when he's a heel, he's just more cowardly. And when he's a face, he's more brave. That's it. He doesn't like in the past, Kevin Owens was an excellent heel. Like when he first started in NXT, he was an excellent heel because you didn't expect him to turn like on the first day on Sami Zayn, right? I mean, maybe you expected it, but you're like, even if you expected it, you're like, wow, that'd be pretty cool. And then he would like power bomb people on the apron. Whatever happened to that move? That was a great move. He would power bomb people on the apron. You know what I mean? And like he would put them out basically with that, right? He was this like almost like a sadistic heel, but like it worked really well because he was like a regular guy, right? They really made the regular guy thing work because you look at Kevin Owens and you're like, oh, this guy's just like normal. He's like a normal dude, right? But if you make him act more sadistic than the next guy, right? So like if you have like, let's say for example, Mark Henry, he might be a heel, but he's like a goofy heel, right? During his goofy heel phases, And you're like, oh, okay. Even though Mark Henry would destroy Kevin Owens, it's believable that Kevin Owens is getting more opportunities because he's a sadistic heel. So people have a vendetta against him, right? Whereas Mark Henry's not stepping on any toes. But now, like, heel Kevin Owens doesn't do that anymore. Like, since he became the Universal Champion, he stopped being a real heel. He's just a guy, right? And this is part of the WWE formula. They just take someone and they just turn them into a guy, like they don't, or a girl. They don't have any personality, anything at all. Like Rhea Ripley, she has like, you know, an interesting theme song, but that's it, right? She has an interesting theme song, and she used to have an interesting look. Now she just looks like a tall girl, right? Like she grew her hair out, so she's like semi-attractive again. Like, you know, I much preferred the short-haired one where she wasn't going for her attractiveness, and she was just going for being a badass, for being almost like a dude, right? I think it fit her well. But beyond that, it's like, what do we have going for us, quote unquote? What do we have going for this situation? Absolutely nothing. No new heels are being made, and the old heels that are now faces that are going to turn heel are not compelling. We've seen it 100 times, and they're not fun. So that being said, it's another thing WWE needs to fix. Cucks.